Hi there. Welcome to Mike's Collection, episode 300. Now, it's hard to believe this is episode 300. I've been doing my YouTube channel for just about 5 years. It'll be 5 years next month. And when I started doing this, my goal was to do approximately an episode a week. And I have surpassed that. Not by much. I'm at roughly an episode a week or so. But yeah, I haven't really missed any time. I think at most, maybe 2 to 3 weeks that I missed. So things are going well in that regard. I wish the channel was growing a little bit more, but I appreciate every one of you who has watched, has subscribed, has commented. If you are by any chance a watcher who hasn't done any of that stuff, I would encourage you to please, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave me comments. If there's ever anything here that prompts you to think like, oh yeah, maybe I'll say this to Mike or whatever. All that engagement helps the channel. The more engagement any one of my videos gets, the more YouTube recommends it, or at least that's my understanding. So yeah, since this is my 300th episode, I had, and I knew it was coming up, I kind of thought I should do something special for episode 300. Like maybe have try and have some guests on the show, or think of a special topic, like the 100 best toys of all time, or, something like that. But it just so happened the end of the year was coming up, and I was putting out a lot more videos than I usually do because I always do my best toys of the year list at the end of the year, and I don't really like to do that list until I've reviewed all the toys that I get that year. So I tried very hard to do a bunch of review videos up, and then I put my best of the year video up, and next thing you know, it sped me right up into the 300th episode. So here I am. I haven't really had time to plan anything special. At the very least, I kind of hoped my co-host Chad would be with me for my 300th episode. But here it is, Sunday evening. I'm not really doing anything, so I thought I'm going to shoot an episode tonight because the other day I got this box set in, and I have not opened it yet. And I've been very eager to open it. I find it very difficult to get a new toy in and then not open it up. I think I'm a pretty patient guy. I pre-order lots of things. I've support some Kickstarters, and when I do, sometimes it takes up to 2 years for a toy that I have paid for to land in my hands. And I can wait. When I have something that ships to me, I usually just say, well, it'll get here when it gets here. Usually when I'm having something shipped from the States, it takes about a month. Whereas my wife, when she buys something online, she's like tracking it like 10 times a day. And if it's a little bit delayed, she starts freaking out, wants to contact the seller. And I'm always like, just be patient. It'll arrive. However, once something actually arrives and I have it here, then it's very hard for me to just sit on it and not open it. So anyway, this Pacific Rim, what they call the Gold Label Starter Pack. So this arrived, I think it was December 29th or so. It arrived in the mail. This was something that was supposed to arrive earlier in December. I had pre-ordered all of the Pacific Rim figures from McFarlane Toys at the same time. I ordered most of them from Big Bad Toy Store, but this box set was only available on Amazon. So I ordered this one on Amazon, but it was supposed to arrive the same time as the ones from Big Bad, and Amazon ships much faster than Big Bad Toy Store. So I was quite certain I would have this in my hands first. But for whatever reason, this got delayed. I got all the other Pacific Rim toys a couple of weeks ago, and I reviewed those. So if you're curious to hear about all the other figures in this line, I posted a video a couple of weeks back, so you can check that out. But anyway, so this set here arrived right at the end of the year, and it was right in the middle of the... I kind of had a whole flurry of activity to deal with. Not only was I trying to post all my year-end videos, but I also had a lot of family obligations. It was the holidays. So there was a lot of Christmas parties and New Year's parties and all that sort of stuff to deal with. And I really wanted to open this up on camera with you guys. So here it is. I'm finally doing it. It is, I think, January 7th as I sit down to do this. So it's been here for more than a week. Anyway, we're finally going to take a look at it together. So there you see on the front, nothing too special. It's just got the kind of Pacific Rim logo. I think that's the logo of the, what are they called? The Earth Defense Force or something? The government agency that runs the Jaegers. I can't recall. But it's got that kind of familiar blue pattern that we've seen on a lot of Pacific Rim merchandise. On the side, you've got Gypsy Danger, so kind of a nice detailed half image of that Jaeger. And then on the back, you've got kind of this action shot of all the characters that are featured in this set. So there you go. There's Gypsy Danger there, kind of stomping through some buildings. Then you got Striker Eureka. And you see his chest is opening up there, and he's got a kind of a barrage of missiles coming out. And then we've got Raiju, who's one of the Kaiju. And you can see his face is split open. And he's got that kind of like secondary head or secondary mouth in there. And that was, we saw that in just briefly in the first Pacific Rim movie when he's underwater and then his head kind of splits open. So so this is pretty cool. Not much to see on that side. Just that same logo on the top and the legal junk on the bottom. Anyway, so yeah, this did come wrapped in cellophane. I already took the cellophane off, but that's as far as I got. So anyway, this here is just a sleeve that slides off. So let's see what we get inside here. So that appears to be the comic books. Every one of the single pack Pacific Rim figures from McFarlane, it comes with one figure, a little rectangular base that's supposed to look like kind of sidewalk, and then there's a little skyscraper. There were 2 vehicles, and there was 1 issue of the Pacific Rim comic book. So in this box set, we get 2 issues of the Pacific Rim comic book, and I'm not sure if they are the same issues that came with the single-carded figures. I don't have those handy, so I'm not sure. But anyway, what we get here is Pacific Rim Aftermath issues 5 and 6. And I'm guessing, I think these are unique to... now, obviously, these are all reprints of comics that came out a couple of years ago. But there was 8 figures in the main series. So each of the Kaiju, they came with an issue of a miniseries that was a 4-issue miniseries, so that completed the whole set. And then the Jaegers, they came with 4 issues of another miniseries. The fact that this is issue 5 and 6, I had assumed that those 2 miniseries were both 4 issues long in total, but I'm guessing that Aftermath was actually 6 issues. So yeah, if you really did want to get all the comic books that come with the McFarlane toys, you need to get all the individual figures as well as the box set, which is kind of news to me. Anyway, I haven't read any of the comic books that came with my toys yet. I did read some of these Pacific Rim comic books when they were first published. To be honest, I wasn't that impressed with them, although I don't think I've read Aftermath. So now that I've got all of them, I'll have to check it out. So yeah, other than that, once you get those comic books out, there's nothing there. So I assume I have to lift this tray out. And I'm going to be delicate because I don't know if like a whole bunch of little military vehicles might come flying out of here. So I know this set contains quite a few of them. All right, so you get that first sheet off. And there's not much to see there initially. So you'll see here, these are the concrete blocks. So you get one of these with each of the individual figures. Here you get, there's 2 there, but I think we're supposed to get 3, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, there's 2 blocks of concrete, and then there's 2 skyscrapers. Both of them are pretty similar, but they do have different tops to those buildings. Whoop. And there goes a piece of them right there. So yeah, they're not packed in there very tightly. And the buildings are cool. We talked about them when I reviewed the individual carded figures. You can take out any piece, so you can make the buildings different heights if you want to. And the fact that the kind of destruction is the same shape on every piece, it doesn't affect that when you take out a piece, or you can make one super tall building by stacking all your buildings together. So yeah, that's pretty cool. We'll take a closer look at those ones again once I've got this whole set opened up. And yeah, so there's another tray that I'll have to remove here. Actually, I think I'll take this whole thing out. Then the box is just empty. And yeah, so I'm going to remove this upper tray here ever so carefully. Okay, so not much to see there. So just those buildings and the sidewalk. But inside, here we go. So this is what I hope I can turn this over without it falling all over the place. But you can see you've got a whole bunch of military vehicles. So none of these appear to be unique sculpts. We did get 2 vehicles with every one of the single card packs. Most of them came with like a tank and a truck. So yeah, we get 4 of the same tank here, 4 of the different style tank, 4 of the truck, and 4 of like kind of the Humvee. And then we've got 4 of the jet and 4 of the double-bladed helicopter there. And then you get your 2 Jaeger figures up top. So there is Gypsy Danger and Striker Eureka. There is Raiju. And yeah, so it's actually 4 buildings. So we got another 2 blocks of concrete and 2 more skyscrapers. So pretty cool. And yeah, I guess the next thing to do is to pop all these things out of here and take a closer look at them. So why don't we do that right now? So here are the buildings and the vehicles. And there's nothing different, as far as I can tell, about these ones than the ones that came in the individual packs. So as far as the figures go, which we'll take a look at in a second, it looks to me as though they have some increased paint apps and stuff, which is often the case when McFarlane labels something gold label, which I think originated in his DC Multiverse line. Usually there's a little extra care and detail put into those gold label figures. So the fact that this box set is gold label, I think we'll see that in the figures, not so much in these things here. So the vehicles are cool. They're small. You can see them here in the size of my hand. There's some nice sculpted detail in these guys. So like you can see, they've even got the axles on the bottoms of the truck and everything. So some nice detail, but not much to them. Like the wheels don't turn. This is just a solid little piece of plastic. And, it's cool. I kind of like that it's got a little bit of a, like the plastic they used, it's kind of got this swirly green with, it's like, I don't know, maybe 2 shades of green or maybe a little bit of gray or black in there. It just makes it feel a little bit more, I don't know, grimy. So it almost gives the impression of having a little bit of a paint job, even though it doesn't have any paint apps. But anyway, so they're fine. The SUV, take a quick look at this guy. So again, he's got some pretty cool little sculpting on him too, but not much to say. Both the tanks, they actually have a little bit of articulation in that you can turn the turret of the tank. So we've got kind of like a wheeled tank here. And then we've got a tank with treads. So no movement there, but again, the turret can turn around. And there you go. So that's pretty cool. Now, just like on the other sets, I found these were nicely detailed, except the aircraft are a little less so. Like this guy doesn't look too bad. He's got all those little, like, I don't know, windows on the side. The blades don't spin, which is kind of disappointing. They seem like they should, but they don't. And the jets, they have very little detail. Like you can see, like there's no line for the cockpit or anything like that. It's very basic. So I don't think these got quite the same care and attention to detail as the tanks did. And they're all the vehicles are molded in that same kind of green and black swirly plastic. And then the buildings, I think these are the exact same buildings we got with the set as well, with the individual figures. So there was different options. I think each of the 4 Kaiju came with a different building, and each of the 4 Jaegers came with a different building. So I think I already have these buildings at least once each already. But so they break away quite easily. I would say almost too easily. I wish they snapped together a little bit more. But yeah, so you can see the base. It's got this little bit of a ridge on one of the corners. So that's sort of, it signifies where you're supposed to build the building, and it helps to stay in place a little bit with that little bit of a lip there. And then you see there's some like street lines and some crosswalks. Those are actually sculpted in there. You can feel those when you rub your finger across it. But otherwise, there's no paint apps on these. And then the building. So you start with the base, and there's some sculpted rubble in there. And if you want, you can build a building, just this tall. You have a little building like that. Or you can add in the other two pieces. And what's cool about these is that it doesn't matter what side you put it on. They're all the same. So you don't have to, fuddle around with it trying to get the right size. Every one of these things, all the damage, it's the same shape. So there you go. So that's how you build your skyscrapers. And as I said earlier, you could make one really big skyscraper if you wanted to. So there's some customizable options with your cityscape. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, I don't think the buildings and the vehicles are why anybody really is buying this thing. So let me just get this stuff out of the way. And we'll take a look at the figurines. Now, even though I have the other sets, I was a little bit surprised when I held these Jaegers in my hand. They are a little bit smaller than I thought. And I shouldn't be surprised because they're to scale, I would say, with my other figures. But if I bring out Cherno Alpha here, not only is he taller, but he feels a little bulkier. He's just got a little bit more weight to him. He's a little thicker. He's got these big old fists on him. So I was impressed when I got these figures at how big and bulky these were. I was expecting them to feel a little bit smaller and a little more delicate. Anyway, that's actually what I feel when I handle this figure here. Is he feels just a little on the small side. But obviously compared to Cherno Alpha, I think the scale is correct. So it's not a bad scale. It's just, he's definitely one of the skinnier of the Jaegers. Now, if you watched my other video, you'll know that I did not buy the single-carded Gypsy Danger, nor did I buy the single-carded Striker Eureka. I did buy the single-carded Raiju, which is the monster that we get in this set. But I'm much more a fan of the Kaiju characters than the Jaeger figures, and so I didn't really feel the need to have this guy twice. Although I will say at the time, I thought these were basically the exact same figures as the single-carded figures. And I think upon kind of closer inspection, they are quite a bit different as far as the paint apps go. I think these ones are the superior versions. So yeah, if I only want one Gypsy Danger in my collection, I think I made the right choice by holding out and buying the box set rather than the single-carded figure. Although, by not getting the single-carded figures, I might be missing a couple issues of the Aftermath miniseries. Because off the top of my head, I can't remember who came with what issue, but I think, the Gypsy and the Striker Eureka, they might have come with, let's say, issue 1 and 2. So I'm missing those ones. So I thought, since this box set came with 2 comic books, it would have issues 1 and 2, but it actually is issues 5 and 6. So, again, it doesn't really matter for me because I don't really care about the comic book so much. But if you do, then you might have to buy all the figures, even the duplicates. So the paint job on him is pretty nice. Now, compared to this guy, it may be a little hard to notice what makes this one gold. But I think if I had the other Gypsy Danger from the single card set, it would be pretty obvious. Just off the top of my head, the way I remember it looking is it was like a much kind of softer, almost baby blue color. It just didn't look nearly as metallic. So I think this looks much better. Another difference is I believe the other version had 2 kind of fisted hands like this. Whereas this guy, you'll see he has his... you guys will get mad at me if I get this wrong. Whatever, his plasma gun or whatever you call it. So he's got one of his weaponized hands here, whereas the other one I believe did not. And yeah, the paint is like, there's a ton of sculpted detail in here, and most of it does not have any paint apps. Like, this could have benefited if some of these were black or silver, or even if there was a bit of a black wash over it just to bring out that detail. It doesn't have any of that. But from the front, there is a bit of a gray wash, which adds some weathering. It's just the back. There's not much detail in the back. They didn't put much care into that as far as the painting goes. The sculpting is awesome. But yeah, as soon as you flip them around, I'm not sure if you're picking that up. But yeah, there's a kind of a gray or silver wash over the whole front of them. So yeah, that makes it look like weathered metal, and it looks pretty cool. Now, the articulation on these guys is, it varies by figure. They don't all have the same points of articulation. This guy here, he's got a good joint on his knee, so you can get his leg pretty far back. It is a single jointed. It almost looks double jointed, but it's just like one big ratchet joint. So he's got a good range of motion there. He's articulated at the hips, so he can kind of do the splits forward and backwards, but not much movement to the side. That's pretty limited. And I wouldn't want to force it because it looks like that joint in there is pretty thin, potentially pretty fragile. No articulation in the torso, so he doesn't spin anywhere. His arms, so he's got elbows, so you can bend his arm like so. And he's got shoulder articulation, but it's pretty limited. Like, he can spin around like that, that's fine. But I mean, as far as like putting his arms out to the side, like you can see the joint allows for it. There's a little bit of rocking there, but I think the way the sculpt is, it just blocks the movement, so you can't really do anything. And does his head turn? Yep, his head turns a little bit, but it's kind of hard to get in there to it. I'm not sure what's going on there on his face. I guess that's maybe supposed to be some battle damage. Looks like the head has been torn open on one side. And again, it looks like this might be battle damage here too. It's a little unclear, but you can see it's not as clean. This side is nice and clean. This is all jagged, so maybe that's supposed to be after he's taken some damage. But anyway, pretty cool little figure. Now, Striker Eureka. Again, this guy looks quite nice. If I do a side-by-side with the single-carded version, which I do not have, from memory, I think he was kind of a dull tan color, maybe a bit gray. But yeah, it looked pretty flat. This one here, like Gypsy, he looks much more metallic because they've given him that wash. So you see all those little silver and gray, like weathering, really make him look like a lived-in machine. From the back, he doesn't have any of that weathering. So again, nice sculpting throughout. All these little pistons and everything, they're all sculpted there, so they didn't cheap out on the sculpting. But yeah, the paint, they didn't carry through that weathering, which is kind of too bad. But yeah, from the front, he looks really good. And besides the different paint job, again, I didn't realize this when I first ordered it, but upon closer inspection, I think the other version has a fully sealed chest. Like, these plates are all connected, whereas here you see the plates have opened up, and he's got these extra guns that are protruding from his chest. So I think that's a different sculpted chest. So, pretty cool. Now for articulation on this guy. So he has got knee as well. It's a different type of knee on this guy, so he doesn't have quite the same range of movement. Now his hips move as well, and he can do a bit more of a split than Gypsy can, but his legs can also go forward and backwards quite a bit. Nothing at the waist. Now his arms, they can go out a little bit to the side. Oh, actually, they can go pretty good. So pretty far out to the side there, so that's cool. And elbows. So pretty good range of movement there at the elbow too. Nothing at the hand, and the head does turn a little bit as well. Yeah, not bad, not bad. So again, I'll just bring out the Cherno Alpha and Crimson Typhoon from the single carded figures. So you'll see on these guys, nice sculpting on these guys too, but there's no weathering on the front or the back. It's just very flat, red plastic. Cherno, there actually does appear to be a little bit of a wash with him. So, yeah, I don't know. I think he looks better. But yeah, I would say absolutely these two look better than the standard single-carded version. All right, let's get rid of these guys for a second, and we'll take a look at the Kaiju. So here is Raiju. Now, just for comparison purposes, I will bring out the single-carded version that I got earlier. So you can see it's a totally different paint job. And now we can really do a kind of a comparison to what's different from the gold label to the standard version. And I don't know if it's as obvious on these guys. because I think both of them have pretty similar paint jobs. Like they both have that wash on the back to kind of bring out all the details of the spikes and everything. So I don't know if I'd say one paint job is necessarily better than the other. Like, let's see, his chest is just pretty much all yellow. Any difference here? No, not really. Like, sure, it's a different color than yellow, but it still looks to be just a big. There's no really special detail in there, I don't think. Now it does carry over, like through here. It's got some paint on the scales. Yeah, I think that's about the same as this guy. So yeah, I don't think there's anything as far as the paint job goes. I don't think it's any more paint apps, but I do think it's a nicer paint application. Like this guy, I don't know which one is more screen accurate. We only saw this guy underwater, so it was hard to say. But I have a bunch of the Kaiju figures that were produced by NECA back in the day, and all the Kaijus are kind of this skin tone. The fact that this guy is kind of this bright aqua green, it looked a little out of place to me. So I don't think this is a bad look, but I do prefer this, and it's more consistent with my other figures. So the big difference between these two figures is the head. I think the body sculpts are the exact same. Like the hands are in the same place and everything. But this guy, you can see he's got these seams on his head. So in the movie, his head splits open, and he's got this kind of secondary head inside. And so now we get to see that in all of its interesting detail. Not really sure how this guy works, but it's cool. And I'm glad it's different. Like, if they had just given me this figure again with this paint job, I would have been like, okay, this is a cooler paint job. But the fact they gave us that totally different head, it really makes this feel more unique. And honestly, this head was the main reason that I bought this starter pack. Because it ended up being a little bit more expensive than it probably should have been for me. This set was advertised at about $50, and the individual figures are about $20. So I thought this was pretty good. I hate when multi-packs come out. So if individual figures are $20, you put 3 of them together, and then you sell them for $60 or maybe even $70. That always seems crazy to me. That happens with some companies. I think if you're bundling figures together and kind of forcing the consumer to buy multiple figures, they should get a bit of a discount. So yeah, if these are valued at $20 a piece each, you put 3 of them together, you sell it to us for $50 instead of $60. So that's what McFarlane did, and I was totally on board with that. However, this was an Amazon exclusive. I live in Canada, so I would have to buy it from Amazon.ca, which is the Canadian Amazon. But as soon as this went up for order, it was up on Amazon.com, but it was not up on Amazon.ca. And I waited a few days to see if it was going to show up at CA, and it never did. So I just made my order with Amazon.com. The problem with that is I have Amazon Prime, but it only applies to my Amazon.ca. So I didn't get my free shipping. And this thing here, once they factored in the shipping and the customs charges and all that sort of stuff, this set ended up costing me $100 Canadian, which is, it's hard to justify that this being worth $100. However, literally the day after this shipped to me from Amazon.com, Amazon.ca put it up on the Canadian website for $50 Canadian, and I could have bought it with free shipping, and there would have been no customs fees. So literally half the price that I paid for it. So that was kind of frustrating. Hopefully, if you're a Canadian and you haven't bought this yet, but now you are intrigued to do it based on this video, you should definitely buy it from Amazon.ca and save yourself some money. Anyway, it's a cool set. I'm pleased with it. I'll bring out some of these other Kaijus here, maybe for some size comparisons. So just so you can see how these guys shape up with some of the other figures if you did not already purchase the single carded sets. You can see here the size does vary depending on the Kaiju that you have here. And some other comparisons maybe for these figures. We get the Jaegers back out here. So I display these figures next to my Godzilla reaction figures. So you can see how they size up to a Godzilla reaction, which looks pretty good to me. And then here I've got a Godzilla 5 points figure from Mezco. that also works. You know, if you're a real stickler for scale, I'm not sure. It might be off a little bit, but I think you can definitely display these guys together and they look pretty good. So yeah, overall, I'm pretty pleased with this set. Okay, so that was my review of the McFarlane Gold Label Pacific Rim Starter Pack. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave me comments below. As I mentioned at the start of the channel, all that stuff really helps to grow the channel. And after 5 years, again, I'm having fun doing this, and I do appreciate all the engagement that I do get. But you know, we're still hitting pretty humble numbers there. You know, most of my videos, you know, they might peter out around 200 views. Now, Pacific Rim videos tend to do very well for me, so this one might do a little bit better than that. So since this one is probably reaching a bit of a wider audience than I usually get, I would please ask you guys to like, subscribe, and comment. And yeah, thanks for being here for the 300th episode. And yeah, no signs of stopping here. I still have a bunch of new toys from Christmas that I haven't yet reviewed. Chad still has to come over and tell you about his top 10 picks of the year. And so yeah, we'll be back very soon with another episode. Thanks for watching.